Today is September 22nd, 2025. It's the autumnal, and it is 9:05 in the morning. As a quorum of the committee is in attendance, I would like to call to order the meeting of the Central Health Ad Hoc Policy and Bylaws Committee. As a reminder, one of our committee members may be also participating via video conference, so the staff will be managing video and audio feeds for all participants closely to make sure that we have a legally compliant meeting at all times. Okay, do we happen to have any speakers for public communication today? No speakers. Then I would like to announce that we will now hold, well, since we didn't have that, no public communication. We're now going to proceed to the regular agenda. On the regular agenda, the first item of the agenda is to approve the minutes of the October 25th, 2023 Ad Hoc Policy and Bylaws Committee meeting. Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Jerónimo Rodriguez and Manager May, first and second, the motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now we're going to discuss and take appropriate action on revisions to the Central Health amended and restated bylaws. Bedla Cavazos and David Duncan will be presenting during this part of the program.
We do not have a presentation. I think my understanding is that the chair of the committee and the chair of the board would lead a discussion on and the process for accepting bylaws recommendation.
May I?
Yes.
I think one of the, maybe it's up to the chair, but maybe the first item would be the briefing on the quorum requirements.
Policy requirements.
Hang on just a minute. I was looking to find it, sorry.
So David, I think we were wondering if you just want to walk us through quorum requirements, and we just want to make sure the bylaws are aligned with that, and if we have any questions.
David Duncan, Travis County Attorney's Office. The term quorum
You have
is...
your mic on?
Yeah, I do. The term quorum is defined several places. Probably the primary one for our purposes is in the Code Construction Act, which is Chapter 311 of the Texas Government Code. The Code Construction Act applies to every entity whose operations are authorized or driven by a code. And the Travis County Healthcare District, Central Health, is authorized under Chapter 281 of the Health and Safety Code. So everything in the Code Construction Act is a statutory interpretation, statutory application chapter. It's sort of like the definitional chapter for all the codes. And within it, there is a definition of quorum in a section 311.013. And the first subsection of that is talks about conferring authority. A grant of authority to 3 or more members as a public body confers authority on a majority of the members of that body fixed by statute. So that's sort of a backward definition of quorum. But the next paragraph is, a quorum of a public body is a majority of the members fixed by statute.
It's a majority of what I can hear.
A majority of members fixed by statute. So
Okay.
whatever set of members is set, if it's 5, it's 3. If it's 9, it's 5. And it would be, to change the bylaws to say something different than that statute, to me, would be a violation of statute. You just can't change state law by your bylaws. And that applies to you because it applies to you. It just does.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So a quorum of our body is 5.
Quorum of the Board of Managers, yes.
Is 5, okay. And I think that tracks with the definition of quorum in the bylaws, right? Because there's a definition of quorum in the bylaws. So David, we talked about this before, but here's my question. I'm understanding that a quorum, and I think it's aligned with what's written into these bylaws, is that a quorum is, is that, 51% or whatever, majority of the board, which in our case is 5 out of 9. But I know that you have felt that it was important that our board, no more than 2 board members talk to each other because of the relationship with committees. So that's really what I'm trying to get at, because the bylaws are silent, except to say that a quorum is the, is the majority, which is the 5 out of 9. The quorum of the board is 5 out of 9. So
Under 7.8.1, a quorum of a committee is a majority of the members of the committee.
Yes, but I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about a quorum. So a quorum of the body is 5.
Yes.
So for purposes of members talking with each other about an item that comes to the board for vote, you can't break that 5 of 9, but you could talk to less than that number of people. So that's what I'm trying to clarify.
Technically, that's true, but I always urge caution in that scenario because you don't know who else some other member has talked to, and they don't know who you have talked to. And a walking quorum is very easy to occur in situations where multiple members are talking to other members. And you can get over 5 very easily.
Okay, so technically, I think I heard you say, technically, any board member can talk to a total of 4, counting themselves, and not be breaking quorum. Now, whether that's advisable or not is a different issue, but under the law, that's what the law says. Did I hear you right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, that is not the case if any 2 of those other members is on a committee that they are on.
Is on a committee that what?
That they are on.
Unless that committee, now let's talk about if the 3 board members want to talk about an item that will come to the full board for vote, but is not going through a committee. So it would seem in that case that because there's no deliberation in a committee about an item, that it would go back to
Legal.
the,
It would be legal
it would
to
be legal
communicate.
and go back to the quorum rule about not talking to 5. And I'm just trying to get what's legal. I know there's a difference between what's legal and what you advise.
Correct.
I'm asking what's legal.
It is technically legal, yes.
Okay. So now let me explore the other. What if, now committees don't make final decisions. So explain that to us, how you're applying.
There's case law and AG opinions going back close to 50 years under the Open Meetings Act that
Okay.
say if a quorum's acts are routinely rubber stamped by the primary body, that quorum's, if a committee, I said quorum, if a committee has its acts routinely rubber stamped, then that committee is subject to the Open Meetings Act, must post its meetings. We
Okay.
post all of our committee meetings using that logic because most of our committee, all of the items from Budget and Finance, all the ones from the other committees go on consent, and that's the very definition of rubber stamping. So all of the committees are subject to the Open Meetings Act because that happens. And like I say, there's case law, there's a couple of good cases and 5, 6 AG opinions going back to 74, 75. Before I was out of high school, that all say if a committee's actions are rubber stamped, it's subject to the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, and what's the definition in the law of rubber stamp?
There is no definition in law. It's case law, and it talks about if those are acted on without extensive deliberation in the main body, which is that's what a consent agenda is. It's
Unless it's pulled by a member of the whole.
again they use the word routinely, and routinely is really what applies here.
Okay, so, all right, so if it's not rubber stamped, in other words, if it's not on consent, but, David, I think you sent this to me, and I apologize if I haven't seen it, but I'd like to see how the case law interprets rubber stamped. So if you've already sent that to me, just refer me to the email you already sent, and I'll go back and read it. But I'm sorry, I don't remember if you sent that.
we didn't delve into that deeply in the opinion that we wrote, but we could go back and look at that. Again,
Yeah,
I don't know that there is, I've been doing this a very long time, I don't know that there is extensive discussion of that in the two main cases.
Okay, well, there must have been some fact situation
Oh, yeah.
that made them use the term rubber stamped, and so even if it's just that, even if they didn't rule on it, you know.
Yeah, I can go back and look at that.
Okay. Okay, so just to confirm, so it's legal to talk to up to 4 members under, and if it's an item that is addressed in a committee, then it's the quorum of the committee, if it's rubber stamped. If it's not an item that's addressed in committee, then you go back to the talk to up to 4 members. Okay. That's what I wanted to.
Again, I would urge caution on that, because the mere fact that 3 members of a committee had an in-person meeting or a phone call or an exchange of information, which is the definition of deliberation under the Open Meetings Act, you would have to prove that it was not the committee's work that was being discussed. And the only way that would happen is if some law enforcement officer subpoenaed your cell phones and your laptops.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm not saying anything about the recommendation. We appreciate your recommendation and your advice. I'm trying to get at what is legal so the board members can make their own decision about whether or not, in what circumstances they want to deal with quorum. So.
And so then it would be our recommendation, I guess, that whenever we refer to definitions, we do have
Yeah, I think there's a
an
definition already in
appendix
here.
with definitions, that we cite the specific law that it refers to, so that no one will have a problem clarifying or understanding exactly what the definition is. It would be nice for us to be able to start citing. Go back to that, go back to 281, go back to whatever.
Yeah, I think it also would be helpful when you send out emails to folks, instead of saying in your email, don't talk to any other board member, say it is my advice that you not talk to any other board member. I think that's helpful and appropriate for people, but the way it's written in the way it's written from time to time, not all the time, but the way it's written from time to time is not, makes it sound like it's illegal. So I think we need to be clear for our board members what's legal and what's advice. So.
Shannon,
Madam Chair,
Shannon, go ahead, please.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. I'm sorry I'm not there today, unfortunately. I wasn't able to make it. So am I understanding us to say that if you're on a phone call with a member of a committee of 1 person, and that committee is composed of 4, you are in violation because you.
It's more than that.
Is it so 3? So if
Yeah.
it's 3 on the committee of 4, then you're in violation.
If you're talking about a subject that is coming in front of that committee.
Yes. That's what.
Yeah, and if I still want to understand the definition of rubber stamped, because the assumption is that everything that comes out of a committee is rubber stamped, and the interpretation is it's because it's put on consent. So that is how we've been practicing. I think I just want to understand that in case there's something we want to make clear is not rubber stamped. So.
And I'd like to further question or ask the question.
Finish. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go
Oh,
ahead,
I'm
finish.
sorry. Madam Chair, I'd like for you to go ahead and finish what you're saying before I continue.
Oh, I was just going to say that I just noticed that Maram joined us. Yeah. Okay, Dr. Brinson. Okay.
Thank you. So David or Tralisha or Hasib, what I would like is clarification on the receipt of presentations that are handed to us. And then we must return them. My question was that we're duly appointed by county commissioners or by the city council to serve on this board. The board is the entity that takes action on adopting policy. And and taking action on whatever is being recommended and that we vote on by the CEO and others. However, when there is a need, when we're dealing with a complicated issue, and we had not received previously information respective of that particular issue, is there anything in writing or legally adopted that would keep us from having those documents, keeping them in our possession, taking them home to study them in preparation for the upcoming meeting where that item will be discussed? And/or decisions would be made by us, as we are the duly elected members of this board. And by law, we're the ones that make policy. That is a serious question for me in light of the issues that we have been dealing with historically and are going to be addressing in the future, that are going to be complicated and are going to require that our board members be sufficiently prepared. That means they have to have had time in order for them to read through the documents, to analyze them, internalize the information, and then be prepared to have a meaningful discussion during the board meeting, and then make and vote on recommendations or take action. I am asking whether or not there's anything that keeps us from continuing to maintain possession of the documents that are ours, that are Central Health, when we are in fact the only entity in Central Health that is required to make policy and take action. Not staff, the board, members of the board of directors or board of managers.
This is at least the second issue that we've been discussing that I think should be in closed session. I think we should go into closed session under 071 and talk about this and the previous issue.
Okay.
I've got it. Hang on.
Do I have any concerns by the board members?
Dang it, I don't have it.
What-
I had a comment about it.
Yeah, why don't we go
And
in,
then-
let's finish the other first.
Okay, so Ann, Madam Chair, I'd like for you to go ahead and finish the discussion before we go into closed session to talk
Okay,
about that issue.
I think Geronimo had something and Maram has her hand saved.
Well, one, just to clarify, David, I was gonna make some comments about what Chair Kitchen was asking you to do some legal research on. Would you prefer we do that in executive session, or would you like, okay, and then I'll hold my comments until we go into executive session.
Okay, then Maram.
Maram? Madam Mustatif?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have a quick question related to
Go ahead.
the core committees at rubber stamping. I know any committee, like even if there's an item on consent, any member can pull that item.
Correct.
So I'm just kind of confused. So in terms of, it's not rubber stamped because any board member can request that item
Be pulled for discussion, correct?
consent. Yeah, so I just wanted to point
Yeah.
that out
Yes.
for further clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Maram. Are there any other questions?
Wait, he didn't answer her.
No, David, Maram's asking the question.
Oh, it was just a statement.
I think
No,
that,
it wasn't
I
phrased
think
as a
she was
question.
basically asking if there's a distinction, or the fact that any board member can pull any item, whether it be on consent or not, for discussion. How is that
Rubber stamp.
rubber stamping when we have, every board member has the ability to pull an item?
That's what we're going to do our research on. Let's just leave it for that.
Okay.
What did he say?
The fact that we can, they're going to do some research on
Okay,
that,
all right.
and then they're going to bring it back to us for
Okay,
discussion.
great.
Do you have,
I have a related item just to ask a question about. It's related to this
ahead.
discussion of quorum, I think. Well, Chair, it may be a different question, but I noticed that we have, when we talk about the number of board members on our committee, that it says up to, I think it says up to 4.
correct?
But we treat the Budget and Finance Committee differently. So the budget and finance, and I'm sorry, I'm not finding the exact language here, but if I'm reading it right, the budget and finance committee, it's basically anyone that shows up is part of that committee. Is that how that is,
Yes.
is that how that is supposed to work out?
Yes. It's in
Okay.
7.8.2.
I'm sorry,
7.8.2.
7.8.2.
Right, it's the very next one.
oh, okay, 7.8.2.
Under quorum generally, and then it says quorum of the Budget and Finance Committee.
Oh, I see.
Page
Oh,
10.
I
Page
see.
10.
A quorum of the
7.8.3
Budget and
is the
Finance
voting.
Committee shall consist of either a majority of the voting members of the committee or a majority of the board. Does that mean, what's the or there? Of either, it depends on who shows up, is that right? Oh, it's 7.8.3, right? Okay.
That's the voting rules. The reason for that,
Two,
that
yeah.
or is if, let's say the Budget and Finance has 4.
Yeah,
And 2 of those members show up,
yeah,
but 3 other members of the board show up,
yeah,
so and you've got 5,
right?
you can start the meeting.
So what now?
You can start the meeting. You have a quorum.
Okay, how does that work in terms of Budget and Finance Committee members talking before the meeting?
Again, if it's the 4, if it's 3 of that 4, the same rule applies, regardless of the special quorum rule.
And why is that? What is the language that tells me that?
The same language I've been referring to.
No, I mean in here, what is the language that tells me that?
It,
Is it
not-
7.8.2?
so just to take a step back, so there's also a special quorum rule that says you can be an ex officio member of any committee if needed to make quorum of a committee in the event. So 2 of the members of the committee show up, you
Yeah,
show up, they can have a meeting. That's a quorum.
Yeah,
If 2 of those members talk to you, I would argue that's not violative of the quorum rule because that's not a quorum.
okay.
So that's feasible, although the rest of it, I'm just going to stop right there and we're going to talk about the rest of it in closed.
Well, maybe this is closed too. So for the Budget and Finance Committee, if there's an item that's relating to budget and finance, it's the full board, right? For purposes of people being able to talk to each other? Because if they all show up, the quorum of the board is, do you understand, am I being clear on my question?
No, I didn't catch that, sorry.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out for purposes not of who's there, but for purposes of people, what the quorum is for ahead of time, if they want to talk to each other, or even afterwards, if board members want to talk to each other about an item that's on budget and finance, okay? I've been interpreting this as that's the 5, because everybody on the board is on the Budget and Finance Committee if they show up. So that's what I was considering that interpretation to be. Do you want me to say that again? Does that make sense?
No, I understand.
If you want to think about it, fine, but I
No,
think I need to clarify that.
I think that's what I answered before. If there are 4 members of that committee, they are named. If 3 of them have a call, in my opinion, that violates the Open Meetings Act.
But if they all show up, they're part of the quorum. So why is it not 5? Why are you setting it?
We need to talk about the rest of this in closed.
Okay, all right.
I just have one clarifying question, David. I'm sorry. So if we change the just possibility, if we change the language for 7.8.2 in quorum and voting to state that the quorum of the Budget and Finance Committee will be majority of the board,
Yeah.
period. Is that something that we could do?
If you have
In
4 members,
clarifying.
if you have 4 members show up, you can't have a meeting.
I'm sorry,
No,
what?
we-
If you
would
have
have
4
to-
members show up, you can't have a meeting if you do that.
No, you
Cannot. You don't have a quorum.
Right,
still
but,
have to have
but
5.
that's a choice we could make if we chose to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we could do that. Go ahead, Hieronymus.
Head on anyone, please?
Yeah, thank you. I know we're gonna have some discussion in the executive session. I think just so to level set me as the newest board member, I mean, because I need some help here, I think. The bylaws that we're describing first and foremost, the state constitution is first. I'm kind of doing this in order. State constitution, then it's state law, statutes, then it's case law, or both together, both kind of together.
Yeah.
And then we have the authority through Chapter 281 of setting bylaws of the way we govern, the way we operate. And that's what we're describing here, so that as I went from top to bottom, these bylaws also have I mean, this is not the end all be all. All the state law and the Constitution also apply to what we're doing here. So, and the reason I'm saying that is, and maybe you're already with Ann's comments, but it seems to be that 7.82 is it just seems a little complicated, and there ought to be clarity. And I think as we're discerning or talking about that clarity, you're describing with clarity back that if we take the or out or delete the second part, that we can't meet as a committee without the majority of those 4 specific members, so that flexibility is gone for us.
Right.
From a governance perspective. And I think the other question, and again, defer to you if you want to have this in executive session, but the question I have too is, you said that the committee can't meet without a majority, but does that mean that that committee can also not take in information at that meeting? My understanding was always in other governmental entities that it's when you have governmental action or you're going to take action. And so that's why I'm trying to get some
That is
clarity
not what
around
it
that
says.
stuff.
Deliberation is any exchange between the members of a body or between the members of the body and anybody else.
And that's under Chapter 281.
That's under the Open Meetings Act.
Under
Under the Open Meetings Act, they changed it 15, 18 years ago. There were certain state agencies, notably PUC and the Railroad Commission, that were really bad about having staff briefings. They would do staff briefings.
Yeah.
And the members would just sit there, no questions, no interaction. They wouldn't post those. And the legislature got mad and said, that's bull. You can't do that. We want the public at those. So they changed the definition. Any exchange between the members of a body or between the members of the body and anyone else, that includes the public, your staff, anybody. So it is what any written or verbal exchange, an exchange of documents. Doing this is an exchange. You hand somebody a piece of paper, that's an exchange.
And ultimately, these bylaws are the way we communicate and talk to each other as board members? Is that the ultimate goal of our bylaws?
No, I'd say that the bylaws are like an operational document. They're like the bylaws of a corporation. They're setting you up for who does what, when.
To conduct business.
Yeah,
So
how you
I'm-
conduct business.
Yeah, so bylaws are the guardrails for the organization, not necessarily I don't know why the word's handcuffing or saying, no, you can't do this. But they're mostly the way we operate as an organization.
Right, because there's a long section.
Traditionally in practice.
Correct. In 9.0, there's a long section of items that are delegated to the CEO. Here's the things the CEO does. So it specifies who does what in that sense, but it's just the board and the CEO in the bylaws.
So the application of the Open Meetings Act to a committee structure is not based on the delegation of authority or rubber stamping, as opposed to recommending or getting briefed. It's any interaction between staff and us in terms of the majority of the committee.
Basically, any interaction involving board or committee members in a quorum.
Any interaction, okay. Thank you.
One last question.
Go ahead, Madam Chair.
One last question related to this. The bylaws currently state that a committee is only up to 4 members. So we could, we would have the authority under the law to change that if we chose to.
Oh, the makeup of the committees, yes. But again.
The number, I'm not talking about makeup, I'm talking about,
That's what I mean, makeup
the
numbers, same
number.
to me. If you make every committee a committee of the whole, 2 issues with that. One is, again, if it's a Tuesday afternoon and you want to have a committee meeting and 4 people show up, you can't have the meeting.
yeah, I didn't propose that, David.
Oh, okay.
I just ask, Because, you know, so you could make a committee 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, 8 people, 9 people. You could choose to do, if we change the bylaws. What the limiting factor for right now, the guardrail for us right now on the bylaws is these bylaws state up to four members. Okay.
And the part of the reason behind that is once you get to a 5th member, if you have a 5-member committee, and Dr. Bell actually brought that up because some of the committees were having difficulty making quorum when he was chair.
Yeah.
He said, why don't we make it 5? And we said, well, then you have a quorum of the board there. And the committee could accidentally start discussing something or take an action that imputes action to the whole board. That is possible.
Well,
And
now
so
let's
then you
talk
have a
about
quorum
that.
of the board.
I don't think, okay, so let me just, so technically speaking, it would be legal if this body chose to make a committee, any committee, more than 4 members. We'd have to change the language in the bylaws in order to do that. So technically, we could do that. Now, in terms of advice, there's, you know, you have to be careful about that, is what I'm hearing you say. Now, a committee would only operate within their scope, okay? So, and their scope specifically says in these bylaws that they don't take action, they recommend to the full board. So I'm not sure how you could accidentally vote on something in a committee that substitutes for the vote of the full board. But maybe there's other thinkings that you have to be concerned about because, I mean, I'm pretty sure this language in here says, and I know that when you create a committee, you set a scope for it. But I'm not arguing one way or the other at this point because I don't know if we want to do that or not. All I'm asking for is technically, could we do that? And it sounds like we could. So,
With one exception. You can't change the executive committee.
I'm sorry, what?
You
No, the
can't change the
executive
executive
committee
committee because it's
they're
the
elected.
officers.
Well, there are
I mean,
3
that's-
elected.
that's the only one that-
appointed.
It
Well,
wouldn't
you
make
could
any
change it. I mean, you can't change it unless you change the definition of what's on the executive committee, right?
Yeah, you'd have to change it. So I don't know if you would add another office because it says it's comprised of the officers. So I don't know if you would,
Technically, there's only 3 elected officers. The secretary is appointed.
the secretary's always been a member. Hang on.
I know, but technically, the secretary is appointed.
Yeah, it doesn't say
It's
elected.
not elected.
It doesn't say elected. Board officers is defined to include the
Right.
secretary.
The
So
chair, the
secretary's
vice
always
chair,
been
the
on there.
treasurer, and
Yeah.
the secretary. And the secretary has always been appointed.
Again, yeah, that's right, it's appointed,
That's right.
Yeah.
Not elected.
yeah. So I'm not arguing one way or the other because I don't, you know, first off, it's a whole board decision. Second off, I don't know what I think about it at this point. I'm just asking the parameters of what we could do legally. So, okay, all right, that's all I had to ask, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Then are we going to go, do we still agree that we need to go into
Yeah, all you have to
executive
do
session
is
to
say
have
we're going into
further
closed session
discussion?
for item number 2 under 551.071 of the
Okay.
Open Meetings Act.
So I therefore am going to call, today is the date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today is the 9/22.
22nd, yeah.
I'm sorry, the 22nd of September. It is 9:38, and the Policy and Bylaws Committee is now going to go into executive session
Under,
under section,
oh, thank you, Leslie. I didn't even realize this.
Next page.
okay,
It's right there,
yeah,
There it is. Thank you, Leslie. I didn't realize it was in there.
Sure.
under Texas Code 551.071, consultation with attorney.
I don't think 3 is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Shannon, go ahead, quickly.
Yes, would you please send a link for the closed session?
They will invite you in. You'll just have to
Both
click a
Maram
button.
and Shannon, please.
A button's going to pop up on your screen and you just click go into
Okay.
breakout room.
Okay. Okay.
Click accept, sorry.
Oh, and we're also going to discuss item number 3, which is the receive a presentation from staff and discuss existing central health policies and process for policy development. And both of those items will be under Government Code 551.071, consultation with attorney. Okay, we are now going back into open session. Today is the 22nd, it's Monday, September 22nd, it is 9:52, and if we can now have whatever information was going to be provided to us on agenda item number 3. And it was a presentation from staff to discuss the existing central health policies and the policy development
And
components.
real quick, before Perilous starts, I just want to say Andy Buell couldn't be here today, and Monica's out of state, as you know. We helped Andy go through a huge stack of policies. And the policies you have that are board policies, the ones that we set out in there, they either govern you or you made them and approved them. So it was some,
I'm sorry, what was that?
they
They govern
either
us, or
govern
we what?
the board,
Or,
you created them, wrote them,
Okay.
approved them. So, for example, there's one in there that doesn't, on its face, really seem to apply to you. It's the two PURs, purchasing, PUR 001, PUR 005. And those are, the way the statute works, the statute gives all the purchasing power and the accounting power to the Commissioners Court. They gave it to you. You gave some of it to Pat. That's what those two documents are. Here's how the staff's going to do purchasing, because technically you own it. You guys have to do every $5,000 software purchase you guys are supposed to do, but you've delegated it. So the reason you're seeing those policies like that is you said, okay, here's what we're doing with our otherwise existing power. But there's a bunch of them in there that y'all have not seen, not approved. The smoking policy is always my favorite, the smoking and tobacco policy. You don't want to get too deep into HR policies, because then anytime somebody has an action taken against them for parking the wrong way or smoking on the premises, they can appeal to you. And if they get fired, they can subpoena you and make you testify in their dismissal. So that's just a kind of a 30,000 foot.
I appreciate that, David, and if it was possible, if there were policies that the board actually relinquished or turned over, then if we could have the date at that meeting that occurred, specific action did occur.
Those are reflected in the policies and the dates. That's,
Okay,
if
they
there
will
was
say
board
that.
action, it's in
And
there.
so that would have been a board action taken at that
As
point
of
in
that
time.
date, yeah.
Where did you say that's written? It's not on the list, right? No, I mean on the list. It's not indicated on the list, right?
It says last review date. So there's a last review date. On the list, I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't look at the spreadsheet.
And what I'm asking specifically for is when the board took action to do that, to approve that.
For
That's-
those ones that are in the backup, we can get that.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay. Moving along into the discussion on the policies and process, Madam Chair, Kitchen would like to bring up some issues that I'd like for us to discuss.
Yeah, just have a question. So, the policy, because it looks like it might need some clarity. The policy about how policies are done, which is in our packet, has language in it that doesn't, that I'm not seeing the connection back to the bylaws, and so
Page
that's.
116.
Pardon?
It's page 116.
Thank you. Except mine is not numbered that way.
No, neither is mine.
So, but
Mine's not.
anyway, so it says in the it says in the policy about, where is it? It says in the policy about how policies are developed. It has sorry. There it is. Here it is. This is it. This is okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So it says, right after the graphic, it says,
It's right after
the
the
Central Health Board of Managers have delegated operational policy approval to the CEO per the board bylaws. Well then, so when I go to the bylaws, I don't see that statement in the bylaws. What I see in the bylaws under our delegation to our CEO, under B, it says for our CEO, administer and enforce the policies for operation of the district. And then D says develop and maintain, but I don't see anywhere any language about who approves the policies. So So that particular language I just read to you, I can't tie it back to the bylaws, even though it references the bylaws.
And one of the things that we wanted to also do is make sure that it also is referenced using the 281 language, which says
Yeah.
that we develop and approve
Yeah,
policy.
yeah. So we've got the 281 that talks about the board approving policies. Of course, we can delegate that. And then you have the policy that says that we did delegate it to the CEO, but then per our bylaws, but our bylaws don't say that they're delegated, the approval is delegated to the CEO. So we just need some clarity on this,
Just to clarify, the approval of what? The approval
of the
Of the
policy.
policy.
that one policy or?
No, all
No, all of them.
policies.
There is some delegation in there, 9.0, in the CEO section.
But David,
Not on that.
I think there's a difference between the way that B and D are
Are
described.
worded,
Yeah,
yeah.
D says develop and maintain personnel policy practices. B says administer and enforce all policies necessary. And so, is there a need
It's a
for a word
distinction.
develop, on B, or maybe it's a matter of the action verbs that are being used here.
The other thing is, develop implies approve, but it doesn't say approve.
Yeah, that's-
I mean, you could develop
see
and bring it
that.
to the board to approve. None of these words, develop, administer, or enforce or maintain, say approve. But we have a policy that says we delegated it, so.
And 281 says that the board develops and approves.
So I'm just pointing this out. I don't expect an answer right now. I'm just pointing it out, and I'm also laying it out for, for our CEO and for our board members. Which policies do we want the board to approve? In other words, which policies does our CEO need to have that, backup or support or whatever that says, oh, this is an approved policy of my board.
Yes.
So, I don't know the answer. I'm just laying out that we've got some inconsistencies here in the language. So,
That's an excellent point, Chair Cation, and it would be very helpful to me and the staff,
right.
I think, to develop clarity at that level. So I appreciate you calling out the specific language. And
And we would like for it to mirror why we were legislatively created and
Yeah.
how, and what the legislature is enabling us to do. They want us to do that. This is our requirement. So,
And
like-
that goes back to what you also asked for, Chair Valadez, and that is show us where we actually approved it.
That's
So
right.
Yeah,
we'll-
yeah, yeah.
We'll,
That's
we'll
right.
look that up.
so
I
there,
appreciate that,
it may
Teresa.
have been done as part of a vote, but it's not reflected here. So,
And together with Perla, I've been doing some deeper study on policy development and learning about the important distinction between the whole range of day-to-day policies you see here and the limited set of absolutely vital strategic governance policies from the board. And at least the framework that I've been referring back to has been sort of the Carver's Boards That Make a Difference framework. You may recall we provided a copy to the board. It's a thick book, I understand, but they talk about two critical kinds of policies that Carver calls ends policies and limitations policies. The language is, we could find our own, but ends policies are about what must be accomplished. So what must be accomplished for whom, at what cost? Right, so those are very important, and we do a lot of that forward-looking when we talk about our budget, for example, but critical, what must be accomplished. Limitations policies are what shall not be done in the effort to accomplish this policy. If you set a target in the middle of the room, but there's certain, like you can't shoot through these windows, right? You can't break laws, you can't avoid compliance, you shall not cause such that the reserves reach a dangerous level, these kinds of things, right? You shall not do. And anything else, go ahead and hit the target, And so that is really, my opinion as CEO, it would be very helpful actually for staff to have that level of clarity, what must be accomplished and what shall not be done. And then within that range, feeling comfortable that you've really covered the essence of then allow us to then get creative and resourceful and find the way to hit the target. And so that would be my opinion, but of course, we'll follow the board's preference.
I appreciate that, Dr. Lee, and as you're developing that, as you reference the best practice, that particular protocol comes from, so that we as a board can be enlightened as to where that came from and why. So, and yes, Madam Chair.
The other thing on policies I think is important is, and the reason I wanted to see the list, is I think the board has some responsibility to just understand the scope of the policies that are out there, and you probably have either done this or in the process of doing this. What kind of policies do we need to have as we evolve? And,
Right.
and where are there holes, where there
Gaps.
need to be policies? So even though
Close the
these
gaps.
might be something that the CEO and staff need to develop, we need to make sure they're there, or understand they're there. And so there's that aspect of policies also. And to that end, I know that our chair has talked about a couple policies. You want to speak to those that she'd like to see?
One was specifically a revolving door policy, implementation. That's been one of my pet concerns for many years. The development and implementation of a revolving door policy for Central Health and some other policies that are going to reflect upcoming changes to how we do business and how we operate. I can remember
Yeah.
anything else.
So can we ask that y'all work on developing a revolving door policy?
Language, sufficient language,
Could,
or appropriate language.
We
for
could,
that.
oh, sorry.
I guess
I
I
know at
would,
one point I even suggested language. I
right.
can go back
And
try
I
and
know
look for
you've
it.
mentioned this a couple of times in the past, Manager Valadez. Do you want to share a little bit more about your objective for this policies just for other managers that haven't been
Okay,
here when this was
I'm going to
discussed?
talk about an example, and it may or may not be applying to all situations, but we used to have an assistant district attorney
Don't name names in public.
that sat here on the board and resigned from her employment to take up another job with Central Health, and then resigned that position with Central Health and went back to serving as advisor to the Central Health Board. And I just want to make sure that we do not have a situation where, from one day to the next, where we have not incorporated cooling off periods. The same could be for an employee leaving, wanting to apply for a contract with Central Health, and again, it's been from one day to the next or 1 week to the next, and there has not been an appropriate, what I call cooling off period. It could be a year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on the severity or the seriousness of the type of contract. But it also helps us understand that we're not necessarily fostering the development of staff to go out and be independent business owners so that they can compete with Central Health itself. I just think it's basically it goes to an ethics or integrity question. And I want to make sure that we are doing everything above board and in accordance with best practices. So, does anybody need further information?
Yes.
Okay,
Are you talking about board members?
I'm talking about board members.
Geronimo was
I'm
going to ask
talking
my
about-
question for me.
Board members and staff.
Staff.
Yeah, staff, we're
Board
gonna-
members and staff.
We're going to have our attorneys do some research. I mean, it took a state law to apply revolving
Well,
door at
I
the
know that
state
there are
level.
revolving door policies at the city and the county and other
Yeah.
areas. Governmental entities have this in place. We
Yeah.
do not. And I'd like to make sure that we do put something
Manager
in
Valdez,
place.
within the duality and conflict of interest policy
I
that's in the
understand
packet,
that.
there is a revolving door section
What
on
page?
page 4. Oh, it's in this policy that I don't know what page that is in your packet. It's like the
Yeah.
third policy or so that's included in the packet. It's called duality and conflict of interest. And on page 4, going over on page 5, it does have a revolving door.
Well, then that's,
But who does it apply to?
This applies to board members, so to
Oh.
your point.
yeah, I'm looking at board
We're
members and
actually
staff.
post-employment with Central Health, so I think actually applies to board members and employees. And so it may not be complete, but just wanted to point it out that it is,
Clarifying.
it may need further clarification, but I
Yes.
just wanted to bring your attention to the language that exists today.
I would be thinking that do you want that for staff members also, and this is,
Yeah, it says appointments of board member or post-employment with, so I think it applies to both board and staff, if I'm
no, it
reading
just
that.
applies to, oh, wait, let's see.
Up here at the top it says.
Well, it does say employees.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we just
I
need to look
had
at
to
this.
notice that before.
I hadn't either.
What we might wanna do is just ask David to review that and make a
Make sure that it's
clarification.
sufficient. And Shannon, did you have a question?
Yes, mine is, I think, a broader question in terms of
Right,
appointment of board members and reappointments of board members to the board. Is that spelled out in that policy you're referring to in terms of the length of time one can serve and the frequency of being reappointed? And what are the requirements of that reappointment?
Shannon, I think that's the commissioner court
Or City of Austin?
or City of Austin.
Or both.
David, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, you answered that correctly. And I would point out that the language that Dr. Lee is referring to speaks to two things: contracts, which you can control contracts any way you want. When you say revolving door, the first thing that comes to my mind is employment.
That's right.
Employment after employment, and that is much more difficult to regulate. It's essentially a non-compete. It's a form of non-compete. And
That's right.
those are
I think I said-
highly disfavored by courts now, and the Department of Labor tried to outlaw them basically completely. So I would say those things are on the razor's edge of
These are?
legal, yeah. And so we would like to consult with our employment experts and
I appreciate
and,
that.
our employment group.
Thank
and-
you.
And talk to them.
See
The
if
employment
there's more
issue alone,
appropriate
again,
language to
what's in
use then.
here is fine because you're talking about someone leaving employment at Central Health and then seeking a contract with Central Health, or in the case of director or above, coming back and attempting to influence outcomes with the board. That's all you. It's all powers you have. Someone's
have a
outside
time period?
employment is kind of difficult.
Do we have a time period, cooling off period included, or
It's a 2-year.
2-year? Okay, then that
I
wasn't
think
there
it's 2
before.
years.
All of those are phrased as 2 years.
Hit on him all?
And David, I really appreciate you checking with the attorneys, because I think you're absolutely right about what you're describing. I'm curious about whether we can limit the revolving door to actions that staff have worked on, or board members have voted on. And I just can't remember whether there's a much stronger case to be made around that. I
You're
know
thinking
that
in terms of your law license and conflict of interest on a matter under your authority.
Yeah, thank
Which
you. Yeah.
the engineers board, I think, has adopted something on that. So there are other professional licenses that are
Yeah.
subject to that kind of revolving door.
Yeah.
But again, doing it as a general employment matter, and you could do it with affiliated entity, like you're gonna contract for hospital care.
Right.
And you can't go work for them because we have some kind of big affiliation. It's not for that, to benefit that person. It's a big organization that you've hired to come do this thing. We don't want you to go work for them because it's a contract thing. So it's easier to control things by contract than by employment. That's a little tougher.
And then with respect to the question posed specifically by Manager Jones with respect to board appointments and reappointments, Shannon, you didn't get an answer to that, did you?
Chair Kitchen actually answered that correctly.
Okay.
That any
Well, why don't
questions?
you answer it, because it's not for me to answer.
She
The
did give a
the
correct
question I
answer.
was really asking is there is there a requirement that one has to reapply after appointments? That's where I was trying to get at.
And that is subject to the rules of the appointing entity, either the city or the county.
And what I can say is that Travis County Commissioners Court does have a rule that after 2 board terms, they require a board manager to reapply and go through the process, and they also open it up. City Council, I think, has a little bit more flexibility.
It might be a good idea for you to actually provide that language so that we can have that. If at all possible, or
could
tell us
ask-
cite where to go so we
It'd
can.
just be quotes of
Yeah, that's right.
the
Cite
staff
to
and the county attorney's office have to stay out. We're not saying you should or should not be reappointed. That, we have to stay out of that and
No,
just
but you
give
can
you the,
s- you
just
can
tell you
cite-
who to,
do the
tell you who to
citation.
call. Yeah.
Yeah. Cite the policy or where it is located. We have one more. Madam Chair?
I have a question about a different, and I just haven't read through all these yet.
Yeah.
Do we have a policy related to two aspects, related to our board meetings and our committee meetings, with regard to recording and making it available to the public?
For open meetings and also for executive session.
Yeah.
And the reason that that was a question to me since September of '23 is because at that point in time, there was a change made in what Central Health normally does for how they record executive sessions. We used to record them. And then in September of '23, there was apparently a change made without bringing it to the board. It was made by the chair without bringing it to the board for the board to discuss as to whether or not they were in agreement with that or wanted a change in policy or practice rather to occur. So I am asking that we look at that and that we have a discussion about that as a committee and then to the board. Do I need to be specific?
I'm recording, I'm documenting these requests so we can
Thank you.
bring them back.
Because I can be specific.
Is there anything else? We did provide a list of
We haven't had time to read.
current policies, active and even a few inactive. I'm happy to go through and just document, put a mark by any that you want us to come back and share more information about.
Before we do that,
Yes.
Jeronimo and then Chair Kitchen have questions.
I have two really quick questions. The first one's really more of a comment. So in some of the policies, the definition, there's a definition of a deputy administrator. In fact, it also goes back to 9.2 in the bylaws of being of there being a deputy administrator at the district. And having been briefed on some of, and I think the board has on some of these organizational changes, I've not seen how the org chart, like it's an issue of harmonization. Like the org charts and what Dr. Lee is doing to transform the healthcare system, I've not seen there be a deputy administrator or someone be designated as such, but it's in our bylaws and it's in our policy. And for me, it's a question of harmonization. Is that going to be an action or is that something we need to take out of there? I think that's one. And I think two, the second question is really more about processes with these policies. Bella, you were mentioning which one of these we want to look at. You know, from my perspective, I want to look at all of them. But I think
We all do.
there is a question for me, and maybe Tricia, you know, maybe the answer is already in here. Is there a policy on the cadence of when we review these policies? I know certain policies are legally required to be reviewed X amount of time, others are not, and do we have a cadence for the board that there's no policy that we won't review at least every 3 years or 5 years, so that we don't, so we get into a cadence of our committee reviewing policies, and even if it's just a review, doesn't mean we have to change them, but that we get into the obligation of our duty of loyalty, our duty of care, which includes reviews of policies, or at least some knowledge of what policies we have. Oh, sorry, I
Do
didn't
you want
put
to
my
respond to the
microphone on
deputy
to any of
administrator,
that.
or do
I'm so
I?
sorry.
Go ahead, Deputy
ahead,
Administrator.
Deputy
So
Administrator.
technically, I am still the deputy administrator appointed by,
Not technically, you are.
I am
You
appointed
are.
by the Board of Managers.
Okay.
My title did change this year also, and so we are having conversations about, do I use my new title or do I use both? And that's a conversation that I need to have with Pat, although we haven't had time to have it yet. So hopefully that answers your question.
It doesn't, it answers half of it, like, yes, there's someone that's in there. I think in the future, I think when you're talking to Pat, the other question is, regardless of your individual appointment, will there be harmonization across our bylaws and our policies? regarding the use of a deputy administrator, because I think that's the question I have, and if Dr. Lee were here, I'd ask him the question.
Consistency.
Do you plan to do that? Because in the org chart, that wasn't in there. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to get clarification because when you said harmonizing, it's just using that term throughout the bylaws, or are you talking about something else?
No, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like just the harmonization of like,
Org chart.
if we're not gonna use that term in the future, because I've seen it in some of the org charts.
Gotcha.
Then make sure that it's clear in the bylaws and in the policies and.
So uniformity.
Okay.
Yeah, uniformity, harmonization.
Consistency,
Yes,
yes.
consistency.
Madam Chair, and then Manager May.
And, this section 9.2 references the Texas Health and Safety Code, which says that our board, I guess it's may appoint a deputy administrator. And this board has appointed a deputy administrator. And so what 9.2 does is it says, describes the duties of that deputy administrator, and I think it also uses the term assistant administrator. So if I'm hearing you right, we need to make sure that is consistent, that this description of duties is carried out through the org chart and is carried out through the rest of the organization, or if it needs to describe more duties or it needs to change the description, that needs to be in the bylaws. But I think this description probably goes back to the Texas Health and Safety Code, although the Health and Safety Code is not specific, right? Is it just use the term?
Yeah, it just uses the term.
It doesn't state the duties.
And
Okay.
when the board, the reason we put that definitional equivalence
Yeah.
in that section was because the district had always used that term, deputy administrator, and its assistant. So we just wanted to make sure that those two got wedded up. And
Okay.
the definition was
And
that,
if
we're
I'm
calling
not-
it this, but in the statute, it's this.
Right, but if I'm not mistaken, there was also to be prepared just in case something happened and our CEO became
Incapacitated or unavailable,
or
yes.
unavailable.
Absolutely, that's in the
Yeah.
bylaws, yep,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
So I would just suggest that, I don't think there's an option to change your title, Perla, at this point in time, unless, because if you did, it'd be inconsistent with this. So we probably should have, I didn't realize we were gonna talk about this, because we need to talk to Pat about it, so,
And Chair.
yeah,
Yeah, because that reminds, like, if you're talking statutory law,
yeah.
then that supersedes administrative action or policy. And so the question is, in my mind, is if this is statutorily
Yeah.
designated, and we, as a board, have designated someone,
Yeah.
then it will take board action to negate that.
That's right.
And remove that from the org chart. But I think right now we're in good faith, kind of like going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good note to say, well, if you're gonna recommend this, then the board needs to take a vote to negate the action that statutorily has been given to us as one of our
Yeah.
powers.
Yeah, we need
And
to stay consistent.
responsibilities.
Yeah, thank you. I hadn't thought about that, but.
I have a point to
Okay.
make,
Go ahead.
please.
Sorry,
May-
Manager May, can I
may-
catch up? He had a question, and all his questions he asked, there's one that didn't get answered, which is the review time for policies is specified in the policy on policies, which is CMP 011P, Policy and Standard Operating Procedure Management, AKA the policy on policies. In section 5, procedure, subsection 4 is timeframes for review and revision. It's every 2 years.
By whom?
Every 2 years?
Yes.
Does it state by whom?
It's underlined.
By whom?
By the compliance staff. So the compliance,
Okay,
what do you call the?
So
what
we're
is
gonna
Monica?
change- we
Acting
can
compliance
change that.
officer. The compliance officer, and now Monica's acting compliance officer. Andy Buell is the hands-on.
So
she's
we
the-
can change that so that
Okay.
the board takes back their ability to
And
review.
to something Pat was saying earlier, that is something that should be a measurable metric
That's correct.
for compliance. They should be keeping track of how well they're doing on their reviews. And the ones that are in this packet that you're looking at should be coming to you every 2 years.
well, not just
Right.
those, not just the ones in backup, there may be others. that need to come to us too. That's what we need to discuss.
I think
Right.
that's I think
That's
we're
the-
asking for clarity
Yeah.
about if that's, thank you for that, for picking that up. I think one for that might be adding language that says that they're required to give notice to us that they've been reviewing that. Because obviously we have that fiduciary duty on
To
those
review,
risks
to
of that.
develop and approve.
And I think the other clarity question is, what is the board's desire or power to review the policies and at
It's
what?
a
Well,
281.
We have the power, the question is, what do we
Oh,
want
what's
to
the cadence?
delegate?
Right.
Because for lots of good reasons, we delegate, but the statute itself, the authority goes
Silent.
back to the board.
That's right. And so we want to review these and be consistent. We want to make sure that there is a timeline that we all, especially on the board, know that is required for us. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Madam
No, sorry. So as we're reviewing this, I think it's imperative that we don't just review the duties and make sure that it is consistent across the board. But more importantly, I believe that we need to seriously take a look at and review whether or not these duties are actually being implemented through this role. That has been a source of concern for me for a while. As you all know, I've mentioned it several other times at other points in our meetings, but I think it's very important that it be consistent all the way through from the clarity, the definition, and our actual policy work, but also how it is implemented in real life, in actuality. So
Right.
that's something for us to take a look at. And I have something else to say, but it's under a different section, so till you're ready to move on, then I'll bring it up.
We're discussing this as a whole, so go ahead and bring
Okay.
it up if you want.
The other,
And can
Oh,
I
I'm sorry,
just
Talisha?
clarify?
I
Are you also trying to clarify?
Yeah, I was going to
Okay.
clarify a point.
Go ahead.
So, David was accurate in stating that the policy on policies does discuss the biannual review. And David, I'm just going to add a little caveat to that. So the chief compliance officer is responsible for oversight and adherence to the policy, which I think gets to part of what you were saying, Manager May. But the policy ownership is between the whoever the policy owner is within the organization and the executive sponsor. So they're the ones that are responsible for the oversight of that particular policy, ensuring that the policy is accurate and that it's current. So there are several steps that go into this process of policymaking. So just wanted to bring that to your
with
attention.
respect to those steps that go into it, because obviously it's drilling down, and I get that. How do we, as Board of Managers, ensure that it is actually occurring?
Can I
They
say
need to
something
bring
to
it
that?
back
The compliance officer reports to the board, okay? And we're in the process of hiring one right now. So that language should be in the bylaws somewhere about the compliance officer. I can't remember exactly where it's at, but the compliance officer reports directly to the board. And so,
Not to the staff.
yeah, and so they're supposed to report back to us periodically. We don't have one right now. Monica's the interim.
But we haven't had one since Mackenzie was let go, correct?
Right.
November.
And-
That's right.
And the
November
compliance
1st.
officer reports to
It's almost a year.
CEO with a dotted line to the board.
Yeah, I'm
So,
talking about the
yeah.
dotted line.
Yeah.
The dotted line meaning they have a
They
responsibility.
can still come directly to the board.
They
with-
have to
with-
come directly
with-
to the board
with
for
any
purposes
and
of
everything
compliance.
regarding compliance.
I think
Yeah.
that what this shows again is that we're responsible for making sure that the language is appropriate and in keeping with the spirit of 281, the state law and constitution. So,
And Andy Buell has been trying to schedule quarterly compliance
Yeah,
report.
she has.
And part of that could be this, here's our matrix for the policies, here's how many reviewed this, here's what we found,
This is
we
where we're at.
updated this, yeah.
All right, the other area that I'd like for us to take a look
Our
at,
responsibility to approve.
currently we have an
Policies
infrastructure,
developed for that
we have an infrastructure department, then, And here's what I don't understand. When we talk about the procurement of and recommendation of new properties, we put it under real estate. We've been talking about a facilities plan. We have an infrastructure committee. So I think that the three areas we need to review those three areas and maybe create a much broader policy that integrates those three particular areas so that it's all coming under one section. That's my sense, because otherwise it relates to three different things.
What are the
Three
other two?
areas?
Pardon me?
What are the three areas?
Oh,
You said
infrastructure, we have infrastructure, real estate, and facilities. And I don't see the facilities.
Those are, real estate and facilities all fall under infrastructure.
Well, according to the documents here, it says artwork, and it has portable, HVAC, vacs.
Which policy
equipment.
you're looking at, sorry?
Under, on the last page of the
11
list of
11.
policies,
I don't see anything,
there's a policy on artwork in central health, clinical, and administrative
but I don't see anything
settings.
about real estate. I don't see anything about facilities. That's why I brought it up. Unless unless y'all have it coded, it's a different color, but I didn't see it.
It's possible that some of those policies may be in development, but we'd have to talk to Stephanie McDonald
And also,
to respond to your question.
I appreciate that. I'm sorry. Thank you, Manager May, for bringing that up, because what that sparks to me is also looking at whether or not these are also aligned with HR responsibilities for staff over these particular responsibilities. So someone who is infrastructure, or at least real estate and facilities, would best be what would be the perfect person or ideal person for that, I guess, overseeing that component, that department, that section, CEO, administrative skills, et cetera, real estate, infrastructure, or project compliance, which should be someone who is has the experience of doing that. I don't know, and so that would be tied to something in HR that shows that this kind of responsibility to oversee those kinds of departments or responsibilities should be
Stephanie McDonald,
sufficiently
is the
trained.
She's the chief infrastructure officer. She manages all real estate facilities and
I
some
was here when she was
community
hired. I know.
programs, and she has hired very capable people with architecture and real estate experience, building and construction, and so she oversees those areas. And if there's any
That's something we can
specific
talk about.
policies that you think may be needed or you would like to see, I'm happy to take
Well,
that
here's an
message to
example.
Stephanie McDonald.
Here's an example of what I'm
Yes.
talking about. I have witnessed in this last year, I think even prior to, but now that I've got a better handle on our work, I witnessed in the last year, we keep having all these new asks regarding buying new facilities, selling old ones and buying new ones. And I understand we've got to keep moving, with the needs of our communities. But that being said, it's never been clear to me what's what. It's just not clear to me what our facilities planning is. I know that there's something under construction in terms of the staff putting something together. But I think that out of that facilities plan that they're putting together, there should be policies that govern the facilities plan. So that's an example of something that I think is a big void in our planning that goes directly back to our budget. That's one. Another example is the purchasing of real estate. We should have a policy for purchasing of real estate, independent of the planning, of the facilities planning. Now, that's something that they have to go hand in hand, but we should have a policy on the purchase of real estate. With respect to infrastructure, yes, infrastructure needs to be updated and we need to keep up with it, but that too should have a more defined policy about infrastructure. And within all of those three policy, the separate policies that I'm talking about, therefore it comes under Stephanie's guidance or direction, I should say, for her to implement with her employees, with, her staff, et cetera, et cetera. But we as a board should have a better understanding of what that looks like, rather than, coming to our meetings and then all of a sudden we're hit with some new decisions that we didn't expect. So anyway, again, I don't mean it as a critique, because I do know
Yeah.
that we're evolving. And
Yes.
this is the beauty of being where we're at, that we get to really shape this for our future with staff's help, of course. Thank you.
Message received. Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Is that it?
That was it, ma'am.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I would just say that, I haven't had a chance to read through all of this list and stuff, so I might have other suggestions at a later date.
Which is going to bring us to this, looking at the time, and I know that we have some board members or committee members rather that need to leave. So we have a lot of homework to do. We haven't even touched on Mazars. But we are still going to look forward to an update on Mazars and the recommendations from Mazars to us as a board that we should have looked upon at sooner than later, but we're looking at them now, and we're going to take them all together. So we'll be dealing with bylaws, policies, both within internal of Central Health and then also with Mazars recommended board policy development based on their analysis of Central Health. And we'll be doing that within the next, I guess, month or so. And with respect to our Central Health Policy and Ad Hoc Committee, does anybody have any other suggestions for us to look at before we move for confirmation of the next meeting date and time?
Madam Chair, like, if we have any suggestions or recommendations, do we send them, after we review them, who do we send them to?
To David and I.
To you all?
And so when will I, as a chair, ever get these?
Can
After
I,
you've
can I
reviewed
copy
them?
the chair?
Copy me,
Okay.
and if you can, please.
Well,
So we
if-
can look at that and, I'm sorry, Bella? David?
since we had conversations about quorum, I just wanted to,
Yeah, you should be able to copy the
Okay.
chair and me, because that's only one
Okay.
person on the committee.
Yeah, we're not a quorum
I'm
yet.
not on the committee.
And y'all are not on the
we
committee.
are not.
The reason again is one member sends it, and that's two of y'all. How many is that? And then we have to look at every committee and see if that's three of y'all, because Chair Kitchen is on some committees now.
Right, but
So
she's not
we
on,
would prefer not, and we can send them to you separately.
But you just clarified earlier today that if it's not the subject of a committee, then you don't count those two people as committee. That was part of what we clarified earlier, okay? So this is only subject for this committee, not subject for another one. I am not a member of this committee, so I don't count as a quorum for this committee.
But what if
She
it's a
does.
policy about the committee's work? That's the thing. It could be anything.
what was the
It
policy
could
about
literally
what?
be
I'm
anything.
sorry.
It's, if you want to leave me off of any suggestions about policy about committee work, fine. But the rest of these things are not within the purview of committees, and that we just clarified earlier that we're not, that they're not counted towards a quorum unless it's the subject of the committee. So I think you can share it, and if you want to just share it with the chair, that's fine. But I don't think that I'm going to count towards a quorum for this purpose.
Well, in so far as we have talked about the need for doing the deep dive and for being as comprehensive as we can be, and the need to have an opportunity to review all these documents and to do our homework as much as possible before we come to the next meeting. Is there a reason why the chair of the Board of Managers cannot receive a CC on this? Specific duty or responsibility. Our job is to review the documents. And is there a reason that the chair of the Board of Managers cannot be CC'd on this? Specific legal reason?
We just had the same discussion we had in closed, so I prefer not to go into it out here.
Well, we prefer you too, because we had this discussion also in open, and quorum is a, well, anyway, let's deal with it offline, so, if that's all right with you.
Okay, we will deal with this offline. But for clarification purposes, I was just wanting to make sure that I understood what you're referring here is to the submittal by any board member, because I'm assuming they're all gonna get these documents.
Yes, they did receive them on Friday
Right,
evening.
at 3:57.
And the message we relayed was if anyone has any recommended changes to, including the Mazars matrix,
Right, could they read this one? Because I could,
we're happy to print copies, hard copies for anyone on the board
Any
who
board
requests
member.
it. Yes.
so to my board members, if you can please send them the ask. Say,
Yes.
these documents are available if you did not, or were not, if you could be better served by a hard copy, we can send them to you. Or you can come by our office and pick them up.
Okay.
If you can please let them know, I'd appreciate it.
Will do.
So,
And we're happy to, David and I are happy to request to receive any recommended changes to the bylaws, or if there are any questions specific to the list of policies, please send them our way. And we will gather those requests and make sure to share them with the chair of the committee and the board
Please make sure that they
chair.
understand that they can CC us, please. Otherwise, time may pass before we actually see the recommendations as a board chair or committee chair.
I just want to say one thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I really appreciate everybody's expertise and everybody's focus. Chair Kitchens has a tremendous amount of experience working with Open Meetings Act, the all the different rules that govern these board meetings, and of course, the history that Chair Valadez brings to this table is, it's priceless. And needless to say, we've got Manager Rodriguez, who is very knowledgeable as well because of his previous experience. So I just want to say that as we make our comments and our suggestions, it is intended to strengthen our organization. It is intended for all of us to grow into our next future. And we may sound a little critical, a little hard, and we're sorry, we don't mean it, but we have so much work ahead of us. And as managers, we've got a real short period of time to get with the program in terms of understanding and making sure that everything is in place, so that as managers, we're making the best decisions and we're charting the best course for the organization, so that all of us can be proud of it 10 years from now. I just wanted to make that statement.
I appreciate that, Manager May, and I'm sure the rest of the board would appreciate that in our public, and knowing how conscientious our board members and our staff members of Central Health are in trying to run this agency as best we can. Okay, so our next ad hoc policy and bylaws committee meeting, date, time, and location is going to be Tuesday, October 21st, 2025 at 5 p.m. here at Central Health Headquarters, 1111 East Cesar Chavez, 78702, the good East Austin. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you.